For 4 straight years, a whole city was looking for a monster who was stealing their children. But the most shocking part of this whole story, it isn't just the crimes themselves. It's that the monster they were desperately searching for wasn't some stranger hiding in the shadows. No, he was a neighbor, a volunteer, a friendly face hiding in plain sight.
These words from prosecutor Crichton Horton just hit you, right? They really paint a picture of what it was like in Salt Lake City from 1979 to 1983. This wasn't just some story you'd see on the news. It was this cloud of fear that was just hanging over everyone. Every parent had to be wondering, could my child be next?
So let's start at the beginning and see just how this terror unfolded, because it wasn't one big, sudden event. It was a slow, agonizing pattern that left an entire community just reeling and absolutely desperate for answers.
The nightmare just rolled out so slowly, so methodically. A boy vanishes in 1979, then another in 80, a third in 81, and then quiet. A terrifying silence, until the horror came back with a vengeance in 1983, when 2 more boys disappeared. Think about that. 5 children just gone. The whole city was on edge, and they had no leads, no suspects, nothing.
With all the statistics and timelines, it is so important that we remember the names at the very heart of this tragedy. Alonzo Daniels and Danny Davis, they were both just 4 years old. Troy Ward was only 6. Claude Kimley Peterson, 11, and Graham Cunningham, 13. 5 young boys whose lives were just stolen from them and their families.
Now here's the most disturbing part of this entire case. While the whole city was out looking for some kind of monster, he wasn't hiding in some dark corner. He was living right there among them, and he was carefully building this image of the perfect citizen. And this is the shocking disconnect at the center of the whole story. The killer, Arthur Gary Bishop, was seen by everyone as an Eagle Scout. He was a volunteer for the Big Brother organization. Neighbors literally called him a great guy. But behind that friendly face was a horrifying hidden reality. He was a known pedophile. He'd even been fired for molesting boys. And ultimately, he was a serial killer.
This wasn't some random chance. This was absolutely calculated. Bishop was strategic. He intentionally lived near every single one of his victims. He lived right across the street from the store where one boy vanished. He was in the same apartment complex as another. And get this, the police actually questioned him way back in 1979 after the very first disappearance, but they just dismissed him as odd. A potential breakthrough, just completely missed.
So you have to be asking, how does a guy who dodged suspicion for 4 years finally get caught? Well, that carefully built world of his, it all started to unravel with his 5th and final victim. The key was 13-year-old Graham Cunningham. See, Graham wasn't a random target. He was a friend of the killer, who at the time was going by the name Roger Downs. The 2 of them, along with a young man Bishop called his stepson, were actually planning a trip to Disneyland. When Graham vanished the night before they were all supposed to leave, Roger Downs was finally on the police's radar.
Okay, this is the moment right here. This is when everything changed. Bishop and the young man, Jeff, are brought in for what's supposed to be just routine questioning. But a detective in the room, he just senses something is deeply wrong with Jeff's story. So, trusting his gut, he takes this huge risk and asks a direct, piercing question. How long has Roger been abusing you? The answer was immediate and horrifying. My whole life. And with just those 3 words, the entire case blew wide open.
So with his whole world just crumbling around him, Bishop himself was brought in for interrogation. And the truth that he revealed, well, it was far, far worse than anyone could have possibly imagined.
As Bishop starts confessing to Graham's murder, the investigators notice this peculiar little slip. When he's talking about the crime against this one boy, he keeps using a plural word, they. A detective stops him. He asks a simple question that would change everything. Why they? And just like that, the floodgates opened.
He didn't just confess, he actually seemed relieved. This infamous statement, they played it at his sentencing, and it reveals a man with absolutely zero remorse. He knew exactly what he was, an unstoppable predator who was glad his reign of terror was finally over.
And that one single interrogation revealed the full, horrific scale of what he'd done. He confessed not just to Graham Cunningham's murder, but to the murders of all 5 missing boys. In that one moment, 4 years of mystery, 4 years of anguish for 4 other families, it all came to this sudden, devastating end.
So finally, let's look at what happened next. The trial, the sentence, and the long, incredibly painful road towards some kind of justice for the families of these 5 little boys.
The legal path was actually pretty swift. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 1984. But then, 4 years later, he did something really unusual. He dropped all of his appeals. His lawyers claimed he did it to spare the families any more pain from endless court battles.
But Graham's mother, Shona Cunningham, she saw right through that. For her, this was no noble act. She totally rejected the idea that he was some kind of martyr, seeing his gesture as hollow and self-serving, not some act of mercy for the families that he completely destroyed.
For other parents, the pain was just as sharp, just as raw. Troy Ward's mother, Cheryl Sorensen, talked about the rage she felt in that courtroom. But she also spoke of this enduring grief, of just imagining the life her son never got to live, the man and the father he would never get the chance to become.
And this is the question that just lingers, long after a case like this is closed. The story of Arthur Gary Bishop is this chilling reminder that evil isn't always some shadowy stranger. Sometimes it's an Eagle Scout, a volunteer, a friendly face down the hall. And it forces us to ask some really difficult questions about trust, about community, and how a neighborhood can ever truly heal when it discovers the devil was living right next door.